Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. My name is Maria KOROLOV, and I'm the editor here at MetaStellar. And I'm here to tell you that the best-selling free speculative fiction book on Amazon today is a space opera from USA Today best-selling author Jeffery Haskell. But before we get to that, we have 9 other books to talk to, one of which, and there's a lot of sexy aliens in there. Or there's some sexy aliens in there. You see, every single Friday, the team here at MetaStellar reads the first few chapters of every book on Amazon's top 10 list. Today, I was helped out by assistant fiction editor TERRENCE Smith, marketing assistant Lilibet Dominguez-Torres, and community members Sophie Gorjans and Tim McHugh. And Terrence is here with us today. Hi, Terrence. Thanks for coming.
Against my will.
If I'm cutting in and out, I'm sorry about that. It looks like we might have an unstable internet connection. Fingers crossed. Okay, so the link to the article and all the books is in the description box below. And today I'm going to try to summarize the reviews so we get through them quicker. But you can read the full reviews in the article. For those of you who are new to our channel, MetaStellar is an online magazine of speculative fiction, and all the content is always free to our readers. We publish original short fiction, reprints, excerpts, essays, and lots of book reviews. We are able to do this thanks to the kind generosity of our Patreon supporters. Thanks, guys, including you, Terrence. We love you. Our first anthology is out. You can buy it now in all the major bookstores. And we have our second one coming out later on this summer. So let's get to the books. Let me find book number 10 on today's list. Here we go. Breaker by Amy Campbell. The first of 4 books in the Tales of the Outlaw Mage Western Fantasy series. The other books are $5 each, and the series is not in Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited, for those who don't know, is where you pay $12 a month and you read all the ebooks that you want. It's kind of like a Netflix for books. All right, Tim McHugh read this book for us, and he says that it's a Western set in a world where outlaws carry 6-shooters and mages wield alchemy. And Blaze is a young mage in the making who is robbed by another mage, and there's a potential future alliance between them against the ominous Salt Iron Confederation. And the plot holds promise, Tim says, but he finds the pacing a little slow, with excessive attention paid to mundane tasks and the dialogue a bit one-dimensional, with a lot of cliches. But despite these drawbacks, the world building is very well executed and the plot holds potential. But it's not really his genre or cup of tea. But if you're interested in the mix of the magic and the West, check this out. Next, we have 1984 by George Orwell. You know the book, you know the author. What I wasn't really aware of, well, I kind of knew, but not really, was that the book was published in 1949. That's 74 years ago. That is such a long time ago. Anyway, I guess I've always thought of the book as being more recent. Anyway, Sophie Gorjans read this book for us, and she loves it and says it had a profound impact on her life. She even has a tattoo inspired by it. And what the book is about is a dystopian vision of London ruled by the party under the watchful eye of Big Brother. And the protagonist, Winston Smith, is increasingly disillusioned by the lack of freedom and begins his own silent rebellion. So she says that the book delivers its themes in very straightforward ways, and which makes it very easily readable and digestible. Even though it's written in the 1940s, it feels very contemporary. And
it was not supposed to be based on a true story.
Yeah, it feels like it is now, though. So she says that the messages continue to resonate in current society, and everyone should be reading it. All right, next we have Rage by Melody Adams, the first of 31 books in the Alien Breed sci-fi romance series. The
31?
31.
Sorry, what? Wait, Okay, we've all read 31 of these.
There are 31 of the books in this series. The other books are $1 to $3 each, and they're not on Kindle Unlimited. But only the first 8 are available on Amazon in English. So they were written in another language the first time around, and I'm not sure what that other language is. It kind of looks like German, but it could be something else. So the story begins in 2023 in Georgia, the state, not the country. Our protagonist, Jessie, works for Dexter Medical Industries. And when she's accidentally on a floor where she's not supposed to be, she finds a caged man, an alien breed. That's the name of his kind of person, alien breed, capital A, capital B. And he's a subject of experimental research, and he's got cat eyes and cat teeth and is like really tall and muscular. And so she promises to free him, but the guy thinks that she's one of his captors. So there's a little bit of a misunderstanding there. She tells everybody about what's going on. She took pictures of him that she shares everywhere, and the company is really mad at this and tortures the guy as a result, and he blames her for his torture. Then several years later, in the early 1930s, they are both on an alien planet called Eden, with a local population of aliens who are attacking the colony, and the colony is where they sent this guy, Rage, and a bunch of his other like alien breed experiments. So the book skips over all the good parts, like how did the scientists create him? Why did they create him? How within 10 years did they find an extraterrestrial planet that had life on it and create spaceships that could travel there? This is like all important good stuff. The book skips right over that and goes right into how she feels and how he feels and all these feelings. I hate feelings. So not a fan of the book. But if you like these kind of emotional, character-driven narratives, it looks like there's going to be a lot of steamy sex in this one. So if that's your cup of tea, check it out. All right, next we have The Astrals Bonded by Kimberly Ringer, the second of 5 books in the Ash Strike Sanctorum Paranormal Romance series. The other books are $1 to $4 each, and half of the series is in Kindle Unlimited and half isn't. Lilibet Dominguez-Torres read this one, and she says that the book is about a woman named Jade, an architect who's come to someplace called Porter Ranch to do some work, but that's just her cover story. Her real identity is as an Astral, a supernatural entity acting as a peacekeeper between different supernatural factions. And her real mission there is to handle a local werewolf issue. So Lilibet says that the whole concept of this astral police is fascinating. But the book shifts focus to the dynamic between Jade and Colton, a guy working at the range. They're initially antagonistic, and then it turns into a heated attraction, a trope that Lilibet is not fond of, and neither am I. I'm thinking if you find somebody to be a jerk, kill him, stake him, vaporize him, whatever you got to do, move on with your life, you know. But instead, the book spends a lot of time exploring this romance and not even getting into the werewolf conflict, and Lilibet was disappointed about this. So it doesn't quite match her taste, but if you want a sizzling supernatural romance, check it out. Then we have a book that I read and loved. No romance in it, as far as I could tell. Well, not yet. So, got my fingers crossed. Oracle Works, the title is An Oracle Walks into a Bar by Scott Burtness. The first of 3 books in the misadventures of a paranormal post-relationship personal effects repossession specialist, an urban fantasy series. The other books are 99 cents each, but they're all in Kindle Unlimited. So, yes, I'm going to be reading these. But the third book is going to be released at the end of this month. So that's only 2 weeks away. Not a big deal. So this is a snarky, action-packed urban fantasy about a shape-shifting private investigator who specializes in repossessing pets and personal effects after breakups, which is a very niche kind of job. I would not have imagined it pays well, and apparently it doesn't. But definitely a great premise for a book. And so the book opens up with August being thrown out through a window, shifting into a Wolverine, and giving the finger to the werewolf that threw him out the window. The werewolf is an ex-girlfriend of his client. He's there to retrieve a CD that the client wanted. So love the premise. I read several chapters in, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of action in there, and there's a very intriguing cast of supernatural beings that he's interacting with. I like his friends, and it's set in the Twin Cities, which is also pretty unusual, and I enjoyed that very much. So, likable protagonist, well-crafted world building, lots of humor, and lots of action. I love this. It reminds me of the Dresden Files. So if you like those books, check it out. I will definitely be sticking with it. Okay, then we have Royal Factions, a box set by W.J. May, the first 3 of 6 books in a Royal Factions series of young adult fantasy. The other books are $4 each. They're not in Kindle Unlimited, and W.J. May is a regular on these lists. We've had a lot of her books and a lot of her box sets here. So people love this kind of young adult fantasy, and she's got a lot of books in the young adult kind of paranormal, urban fantasy, magical kind of genre. So in this book, we have a fantasy kingdom where the queen has her royal guard kidnap the most beautiful teenagers from the provinces around the capital. And this reminds me a little bit of the Hunger Games. There's a cruel dictator, kids being ripped away from their families, dramatic divide between the wealth and the magic of the capital and the extreme poverty in the countryside.
Once again, well, I'm guessing this is hitting very close to home.
Yeah. So I don't like these post-apocalyptic kind of books because we're living there now. I want escapist fantasy.
Everything sucks now.
Yeah. So except here, the kids aren't being forced to fight to the death. They're claimed as sex slaves by the ruling classes, which sounds, I don't know, I guess it's worse. It's equally horrible. So this really isn't the kind of book that would appeal to me. But given that the writing is very compelling and I did get caught up in the story, I do care about what happens to the protagonist and about what happens to the other kids that were kidnapped alongside her. I don't know if I'm going to keep reading or not. I mean, there's a lot of other books I'm going to be reading, so probably not. But if you're a fan of the Hunger Games, check it out. All right, next we have Prowling Their Mate by Tamsin Baker. The first of 5 books in the Perfect Pairs paranormal romance series. The other books are $4 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. So I read this one, another paranormal romance. Again, I'm not a fan. I've got a cold heart. And I'm really not a fan of books where the woman has multiple boyfriends. That seems like so much work and so much drama. So here we've got 2 brothers, Tyler and Brandon. They're both shapeshifters, living in a small town in the Canadian Rockies. Tyler, one of them, is tired of having meaningless relationships. His brother Brandon is still into them. They're in their early 30s. And they've been prophesied to find a fated mate, and they're going to have the same mate. So it's going to be one woman for the 2 of them. And they're really not looking forward to it. They don't like sharing things, but for some reason, they still both live in the same small town and both still live in the same house with each other. So if they're not into sharing, why are they doing that? Anyway, they meet Laura, who's a human vet, and she turns out to be their fated mate. Sparks fly when they touch, all that sort of stuff. Let me make that a little bit bigger so you guys can see that. Let me make that a little bit
I
bigger.
think people are seeing plenty already.
Yeah. But if you can zoom in, it's like two guys with their shirts off and this curvy woman in the middle. And that's kind of like the thing about this book is that the woman is smart, she's a vet, she's got a degree, and she's also curvy. So
Question. Uh,
yes.
if a werewolf is injured, would he see a doctor or a veterinarian?
That's what you want to know, isn't it? So I guess if people read this book, they can find out. All right. So I've read a few chapters of this. I've no idea what the plot is other than that they have to get her to fall in love with them because it's fate. So if it's fate, why do they have to even bother? It's not really clear, but the book is very readable. I mean, there's a reason it's on the top 10 list. And it's gonna become very steamy very quickly. And this may appeal to people who enjoy these kind of interpersonal dynamics, the supernatural, passionate romance, but I won't be sticking with it. Then we have a book that Terrence read. Wed to the Alien Warlord by January Bell. The first of 6 books in the Accidental Alien Brides sci-fi romance series. The other books are $1 to $5 each, but the entire series is in Kindle Unlimited. Terrence, what did you think of this?
I will start off by saying this is very well, the story is one thing, but the actual writing of the story, I think this is a very talented writer. Immediately, I felt like I was part of the action right there in the ship with the crew landing on this unknown planet, anticipating the first in diplomatic mission with this alien race. I also like the protagonist. She seems like a very uh, confident woman. She's earned the respect of her crew, and she also has some nervousness and doubts as well. She knows there's a lot riding on this mission, and she's really hoping that they don't screw it up. But what happens is that they were told that it was a diplomatic mission, and basically the planet, whoever sent them to the planet of this alien race called the Swavens, basically duped some into getting married off to members of the race because the female population had been decimated by a virus and they need females to reproduce. So, needless to say, not really a fan of that aspect of the story. The alien guy, the captain gets married off to. The captain's name is Mickey, by the way. Like, he's this fierce warrior. Just think like a big, scaly Klingon, essentially. Yes, the typical human desires are there, but it was also nice to see that he did show some concern for Nikki as well, that he cares for her on some level. I know that the story has described in the little blurb on the back that this guy's supposed to be very domineering. So basically, it'll probably go into 50 Shades of Grey territory. So I will say that this isn't really my thing, but anyone else who's into interspecies romance, this will probably be something they will enjoy.
We get so many of these books. Oh my God.
A lot of people are into the subgenre.
Yeah, it's really, really popular. What can I say? And another really popular subgenre is that of the EMP blast subgenre, where the electromagnetic pulse takes out all the electronics and people are forced to, fend for themselves. Usually civilization collapses and everyone starts shooting the minute their phones die. I mean, come on. But anyway.
Don't panic.
It could just be your phone that's dead. Have you considered that? Stop killing everybody right away.
Now, people's first instinct in these apocalyptic situations are to go crazy and loot all the shops. And well, why not just get your crap together, have some kind of action plan for dealing with things.
And that's the other thing. People have known about EMP attacks for decades now.
Have any of you seen GoldenEye?
There's whole government agencies whose job it is to make sure that our critical infrastructure is protected against EMP attacks. I mean, this is a known problem with like an action plan about it. But anyway, okay, let's get into the review. So Sophie Gorgians read this, and I guess she doesn't realize that we have one of these books on our top 10 list nearly every week because she was surprised by this premise. What is unusual about this book, she says, is that it's narrated by a teenage girl named Olive. And so she's got a younger sister, and kind of the odds are against them, even though they've done nothing wrong. Sophie thinks that EMPs are underrepresented method of launching the fictional apocalypse. Ha. Sophie, no, wait till you've been with us for a few weeks. We're going to get a lot of these books. She says that the EMP was kind of clumsily introduced. They went from not really a big deal to grounding all airplanes like after 9/11 within the course of like a single page. So she's read about 5 chapters of it, and the book hasn't really caught her. But if you like the post-apocalyptic aspects and the survivalist themes, you might have a fun time with the book, but she's not going to stick with it. But yeah, there's a whole category of readers who love these books. There is usually at least one of them on our top 10 list every single week.
There was a show that used to be on NBC called Revolution, which was a very similar premise. I remember enjoying that show when it was on. So, I can see the appeal of stories like that.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of wish fulfillment kind of thing. Anyway, before we get to book number 1, I want to thank our Patreon supporters. All the money that people donate through the Patreon goes to pay for original fiction so that all the short stories we published are free. So thank you guys. We love you. We wouldn't be here without you. All right. And now on to book number 1 in today's list. Let me make that bigger for you guys. It's Against All Odds by Jeffery Haskell, who's a USA Today bestselling author. And it's the first of 6 books in the Grimm's War space opera series. The other books are $1 to $6 each, but they're all in Kindle Unlimited. Awesome. The last book isn't out yet, but is coming out in September. And you can can pre-order it. So this is the first time this author has been on our Free Friday list, but like I said, he's been on the USA Today bestseller list, so that's almost as good. All right, so this book is billed as being in the tradition of Honor Harrington and Star Trek. I'm a huge fan of both. I'm David Weber's Honor Harrington series is one of my all-time favorite space operas, and there's like 30 books or something like that in that series. So if you haven't read that yet, check that out. One of my favorites, that and the Chris Longknife series and the Old Man's War series. Those are like the best space operas. Maybe The Expanse. So in this book, Lieutenant Junior Grade Jacob Grimm has been in the United Systems Alliance Navy for 10 years, including Foreign Academy. He's still considered a newbie. He's the officer on watch when the helmsman picks up a weird sensor echo while their formation, which is like a handful of ships going on a scanning trip through space, they pick up this weird signal. He's got a gut feeling that something bad is going on and orders a second scan. Turns out he's right. He orders the crew to battle stations, wakes up the captain, but before the captain can even get there, the ambush begins, and this is Jacob's first space battle, but Jacob reacts quickly and decisively and is able to save his ship, and only one of the human ship is destroyed, so 2 others suffer heavy casualties, but they're able to shoot down all but one of the enemy ships. And then they chase down the surviving enemy ship, and when they open it up, they find that everyone on board is dead, and everyone on board was a little kid. So, big political scandal. Then we move forward 2 years in the future. We meet the Admiral Noelle Villanueva, and she's like dealing with politics. She's just been promoted to this job. She hates it. She'd rather be out in the field fighting battles instead of fighting paper. And she's got all these political issues to deal with, and we get a little bit of a political backstory, what's going on. And she decides to solve 2 problems with one decision, to send somebody who's problematic out to a problematic assignment. That problematic person is Jacob, because unlike everyone else who was on that ship that day in that control room, everyone else has been resigned their commission from the Navy, but he decided to stick it out. And so she assigns him to a new post. Then we switch back to Jacob's point of view. He's been trying to rebuild his reputation on a space station as an officer of the deck, which looks like he's just make sure that maintenance is being done correctly. And he's like very capable and thorough, and is trying to do a really good job. And then he gets these new orders. He's got an hour to get himself onto a tramp freighter that will take him to his new post. He grabs his bag, his guitar, and he heads out. I like Jacob. I like the fact that he's conscientious and works hard. He's able to make difficult decisions when he needs to, and I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of the book. So there you go. There's our 10 books for this weekend for you guys. If you like this kind of content, subscribe to the channel or subscribe to our newsletter. We send out the newsletter at 5 o'clock every Friday afternoon with the whole story with a list of books in it. So the link to that newsletter subscription the link to the newsletter subscription is in the description box below. I had to like slow that down so I could say that. All right, everybody. Thanks, Terrence, for being here. Thanks to everybody for watching this, and we'll see you next Friday. Bye-bye.
See ya, and buy our book.
Yep. Bye-bye.